History is filled with figures who walk the line between hero and villain, but few have a story as dark and complex as Gilles de Rais, a companion in arms to Joan of Arc, a marshal of France, and one of the wealthiest men of his time. His life took a turn so horrifying it's hard to believe it's real. How did a celebrated war hero become one of history's most infamous criminals? Gilles de Rais was born around 1404 into one of Brittany's most powerful noble families. Orphaned at a young age, he was raised by his maternal grandfather, who pushed him into a life of military ambition. De Rais proved to be a skilled and courageous soldier. He rose quickly through the ranks, and his defining moment came during the 100 Years' War. He fought alongside Joan of Arc, playing a crucial role in lifting the siege of Orleans, and was present at the coronation of King Charles VII. For his valor, he was appointed Marshal of France, the highest military honor in the kingdom. At the peak of his career, he was a national hero, immensely wealthy and respected. But after Joan of Arc's capture and execution, something in Gilles seemed to change. He retired from military life and retreated to his vast estates, particularly his castle at Tiffages. Here, his life of public glory gave way to one of private excess. He spent his fortune lavishly, staging extravagant theatrical plays of his own creation, complete with costly costumes and machinery. He maintained a huge retinue of chaplains, musicians, and actors. His spending was so out of control that he began selling off his ancestral lands, much to the alarm of his family, who even petitioned the king to stop him. It was during this period of financial ruin and isolation that the darkest chapter of his life began. As his wealth dwindled, Gilles de Rais turned to alchemy, hoping to find the philosopher's stone to turn base metals into gold. He surrounded himself with alchemists, sorcerers, and individuals who claimed to have knowledge of the dark arts. One such figure was an Italian named Francesco, who claimed he could summon a demon named Baron to help Gilles restore his fortune. According to later testimony, these occult practices spiraled into something far more sinister. The rituals became increasingly depraved, and soon, whispers and rumors began to spread throughout the surrounding countryside. Children, mostly young boys, were disappearing from nearby villages. For years, parents were left to grieve without answers, their fears dismissed or ignored due to Gilles's powerful status. No one dared to openly accuse a marshal of France. The disappearances continued, and the number of missing children grew. The local population lived in a state of quiet terror. The rumors eventually became too loud to ignore. The turning point came in 1440, when de Rais got into a dispute with a clergyman, leading to an investigation by the Bishop of Nantes. This clerical dispute opened the door for a much larger, more terrifying inquiry. The church, working with civil authorities, began to collect evidence and testimonies from people who had worked in Gilles's castles and from the families of the missing children. The trial of Gilles de Rais was one of the most sensational events of the 15th century. He faced two trials, one by an ecclesiastical court for heresy and another by a civil court for murder. Initially, Gilles was arrogant and defiant, refusing to cooperate. However, faced with overwhelming evidence and the threat of torture, he eventually broke down and gave a full confession. The details that emerged were shocking. De Rais and his closest servants confessed to luring dozens, perhaps even hundreds, of children to his castles over nearly a decade. The testimonies described unimaginable horrors. His servants would abduct children from nearby towns and bring them to De Rais. The confessions detailed acts of extreme cruelty and violence committed against these young victims. The court records paint a grim picture of a man who descended from a national hero into a monstrous predator. His castles transformed into scenes of unspeakable crimes. The court found him guilty. On October 26, 1440, Gilles de Rais was executed. He was hanged and his body was burned, though his family was allowed to claim his remains for burial, a final courtesy granted to a man of his noble birth. Two of his chief accomplices were executed with him. The legacy of Gilles de Rais is a chilling one. For centuries, his story has been linked to the folk tale of Bluebeard, the wealthy nobleman who murders his wives. While the direct connection is debated by historians, the parallels are undeniable. A rich, powerful figure with a secret, locked room, hiding terrible crimes. His life serves as a disturbing case study in the duality of human nature. How could a man who displayed such courage and nobility on the battlefield be capable of such profound evil? Some modern historians have questioned the validity of his confession, suggesting it may have been coerced through the threat of torture, or that the charges were politically motivated to seize his remaining wealth. However, the sheer volume of corroborating testimony from his servants and the numerous accounts of missing children make it difficult to dismiss the case entirely. The trial records, though horrifying, provide one of the most detailed accounts of such crimes from the medieval period. The story of Gilles de Rais is a sobering reminder that darkness can exist behind the most respectable facades. It challenges our understanding of heroism and villainy, showing that they are not always separate paths, but can sometimes reside within the same person. It's a dark page in history, but one that continues to fascinate and horrify us. A cautionary tale that has echoed for nearly 600 years. Thank you for joining me on this dive into one of history's most disturbing stories. If you found this video interesting, please give it a like and subscribe for more heinous crime files from history. See you next time.